It's a big week as Australian unions head to Canberra on Thursday and Friday for the Jobs and Skills Summit, arguing for a better deal for Australian workers, and why rental properties are in the spotlight for not being able to provide good heating for renters. It's the latest edition of the Bulletin. My name's Francis Leach.
And I'm Kleo Cruz.
Now, Kleo, have you ever lived in a really freezing cold house?
I have spent most of my life living in freezing cold houses, yes.
Huddled on the couch with a doona, one little bar heater in front of you?
Yeah, the one with the fan that's going to be costing me hundreds and hundreds of dollars in the next electricity bill.
So when you're just sitting there, you're just listening to that thing, and it's just like a money machine going, brrr, money's flying out the door.
Yeah, that's exactly what I picture.
It's not a laughing matter for lots of people because there's a really interesting report that was released last week from a lobby group called Better Renting, which showed that literally 3/4 of rental properties in some states in Australia don't meet the World Health Organisation standard of 18 degrees Celsius indoors, so that you stay healthy, you stay well, you'll feel comfortable. It's a damning indictment of the sort of housing stock that people are paying for. And as you know, like renters are paying really huge prices at the moment for houses that don't even keep them warm.
So we've got a perfect storm of COVID, several other super colds circulating, expensive cost of living, expensive rent, and people can't afford to keep themselves warm.
Sounds like fun, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a terrible situation. In all seriousness, it is. Joel Dignam is from Better Renting. He was one of the people who put this report together, explaining why this is important to fix, not only for the health of people, but for the economy as well.
A new report has found most Australian tenants are living with temperatures considered unsafe by the World Health Organisation. 75 homes were involved in the nationwide study over 7 weeks. 75% of the time, they were below the recommended temperature of 18 degrees. Let's go to the Executive Director of Better Renting, Joel Dignam. Joel, homes are obviously going to get chilly in winter, but it sounds like most renters are spending a lot of time without proper heating. What sort of impact can that have on people?
So the impact we're concerned about is when your home is this cold, this frequently, it really begins to take a toll on your health. And we had people talking about getting sick more often, finding it harder to get sick. But there's certainly plenty of research showing that this can be linked to issues like higher blood pressure, and greater risk of heart conditions, for example. And also I think there's a mental health dimension to this. It's pretty hard to feel motivated when your home is this cold, and certainly a great way to reduce the incidence of things like depression and anxiety is to make sure people can have warmer homes.
Joel Dignam there from Better Renting, talking about the fact that our housing stock isn't built for purpose and that people are literally going cold. And, it's usually people in insecure work and in casual work who can't afford to buy a house who end up in these sorts of homes. So it all feeds into the idea that having a good, secure job and a well-paid job gives you an opportunity, hopefully, to live in a better house and stay healthy.
That's true. And I remember my mum telling me that back in the day, renting was the option when you couldn't afford a mortgage. But now it's basically the same amount to rent and to pay a mortgage. So it really does leave people in a bit of a trap.
We'll keep watching that issue and see what develops from the report and whether there is some real action to try to improve Australia's rental housing stock and the situation for casual and insecure workers who have to live in those houses. Now, later this week, Kleo, a really big event happening in Canberra. It is the Jobs and Skills Summit, and Australian unions will be there in force with Sally McManus and a whole range of senior union officials from unions right across the country. And it's a really important occasion because we're going to be arguing that Australian workers need a hell of a lot of a better deal.
Yeah, so one of the points that Sally talks about a lot is that the current bargaining system is quite antiquated. It's the same system we were using 30, 40 years ago, but the workforce has actually changed a lot since then. And a lot of the workplaces that are left out of the bargaining system are small, and they're usually feminised workforces that have high women's participation.
And Sally was on Insiders on the weekend on ABC TV, and she spoke about why change needs to happen.
The big problem we've got is that Australia's got a really gender segregated workforce, and so you've got a lot of women concentrated in the care industry, and that as a society we've undervalued that work. We've effectively unconsciously or otherwise said, well, because this was done at home for free, we're not going to now properly value aged care, childcare, disability care. And so we've got to change the laws if we are going to allow those jobs to be properly valued.
We know that there are going to have to be some hard conversations had across the aisle, so to speak, when it is at the Jobs and Skills Summit this week. But there is goodwill, obviously, between employer groups and unions to come up with a consensus, because the one thing I think most of them agree on is that the current system doesn't work. There is some holdouts, though, Kleo, and I want to play this clip for you now, which is Sally talking about the fact that some groups, or there will be some people there saying, oh, look, it's just too hard to fix. Why bother? We're not going to come up with a consensus. It's just a talk fest. Things will work themselves out as they are. She doesn't agree.
I reckon it's really important to understand what's gone on with our employment landscape. 30 years ago, we had mountains and some hills. Now, and a bargaining power because people were more unionised. Now we've got mountains and half the workforce is on plains and they don't have any bargaining power. Basically, workers, bargaining power has been smashed over that period of time. And that's the reason why we've got a huge problem with wages growth. And unless we address that issue, that's not going to change. So what we'd like to see is for those people who can't access, they're not on those mountains, they're not going to access bargaining, they need options and flexible options. So multi-employer bargaining or sector bargaining, it should be simple, it should be fair, it should give those workers the bargaining power they need to actually get pay rises again. The system was never designed for people in small workplaces, people in funded services, people like those cleaners, and it just needs to be upgraded and suit the economy of today, not the economy of 30 years ago.
Secretary of the ACTU, Sally McManus, there on Insider. She'll be in Canberra on Thursday and Friday with Michelle O'Neill and a whole range of senior union officials. As part of that discussion, of course, we'll bring you all the updates on what's happening there. And in the lead up to the Jobs and Skills Summit, go to the website australianunions.org.au, Kleo.
And the best thing you can do for your rights as a worker is join your union.
Get to the website, make sure you join, and we'll catch you on the next edition of The Bulletin. See ya.